What's the fastest you've ever gone from caring about someone to straight up loathing them? Had a really great friend in high school. He was cool, but he's always be trying to sell stuff to people in the hallways, like video games or pocket knives or sunglasses. After over a year of being friends with him, he came over to my house to hang out, and when he left a bunch of my favorite video games were missing. I realized what was happening, and I had plans on forgiving him if he just fessed up and apologized. Instead he got super defensive and angry, and I instantly lost any respect I had for the guy. She accused my dad of sexually assaulting her at a sleepover. Went to court, and after first day of trial she admitted she made it up because she was jealous of my relationship with my parents. Meanwhile, my dad's legal bill was $17,000 and her family immediately filed for bankruptcy a week after, so we couldn't pursue them civilly. They were legit poor, so wouldn't have made a difference. Comes out later she had done the same thing before. She's been married, divorced, and the kicker is her current common law husband is her ex-husband's friend's father. Enos. I didn't have a good relationship with my family, and my in-laws were incredible. They would help out whenever and however they could. Then my daughter, elementary school aged at the time, told me that my father-in-law had molested her. I'm so late, but I have a story that isn't, if the cheating variety, and made me lose any respect for 3 people at once. Late high school years. A friend in our group had invited everyone to hang out at his parents' house. We were supposed to agree on a time the day of, but people weren't answering my calls or messages, or were really vague. It was almost 7 PM, which was a couple of hours later than I'd figured, so I decided to drive over. Send one guy a message saying no one's really answering, so I'll just go ring the friend's doorbell. So all of a sudden, the friend calls me and says he was caught up in something and the whole thing might be off. He'll let me know. Thing is, he called me when I was just parking in front of his house and had a clear view of almost everyone in my group in his house. I let the call go on for several minutes watching him motion people to be quiet, doing the talking hand yada yada gesture etc without letting him know I was watching him until the dude finally spotted my car. He then, very obviously, told everyone to hide because he thought I'd just pulled up, and one guy who also pretended to be my friend actually hit the ground together with his girlfriend to avoid being seen from the window. So those 3 people, 2 friends and the GF of 1, I have absolutely zero respect for. Also, I have nothing to do with any of them anymore, so that's nice. Then again I also very clearly saw one real friend tell the friend off. He also called me immediately and said to wait up. He'd rather hang out with me than those assholes. 20 years later we are still very close and effectively formed a new group of friends. So big silver lining. My brand new stepmother scream cried at me in public because she had left her purse at their wedding venue. I, an 11-year-old, was supposed to have known somehow to keep an eye on it for her. I didn't hate her right away, but that was definitely a switch flip moment on how I felt about her. I worked for my stepmom with the intent that I would take over the business when she retired in a few years. I took more than a 50% pay cut and left my career of 10 years of managing and leading organizations to come work for her. Those few years came and went with her unable to even talk about a timeline for retirement. I spent years trying to fix processes and procedures around the office to make her life easier and to make the general workflow easier for all employees, but she was completely resistant to any change from the status quo, while simultaneously always complaining about how busy she was and how we just didn't have any good processes in place. I finally confronted her about her retirement timeline and putting it in writing that I would be her succession plan. She balked at even putting together a plan for her retirement. I let her know that I really couldn't hang around if there weren't any prospects for advancement or pay increases. My wife secured a job in a new town and I gave my stepmom a 6-month notice that we would be moving. I explained that I would be more than willing to help hire and train my replacement and finish formalizing all of the procedures I had developed in my time there. She fired me the next business day. My best friend, who I considered a brother, was working for me. I called him to talk about the next job, construction, and he informed me that he had started his own company and taken my other full-time employee with him, who was working with me that day. Yeah, needless to say, that one stung for a bit. We are cordial now, but it will never be the same after that. It's been 3 years. My mother was an alcoholic growing up. I used to take her side in all the fights she had with my dad. When I was at an older age I realized she was using my dad. She had no job and my dad, who was 64, was working his ass off to pay for my sister, me and my parents. Then my dad said we didn't have enough money for something, and basically my mum said so. We are poor. My parents later split up and she found another boyfriend almost instantly. She still didn't have a job. So I figured out that she used my dad, then was using her boyfriend. Yeah, it was messed up. Edit. Thank you everyone for all the love and support. I hope you get through your sad times too. When my best friend of 10 years slept with my boyfriend of 2 years, I was so crushed, but to be honest was more angry with the friend. I truly did believe that I was deeply in love with the boyfriend, but he was kind of a shithead to begin with. I saw my friend as a sister and her betrayal left longer lasting impact and hurt way more. I hated her in a violent way for a very long time. Fast forward 11 years and now I'm to a point where I have forgiven her and wish her well, but would never let her back into my life again. Friend at a bar tells some people we just met how her mother died. Later in the night I express my sympathy. Now she's without parents. She told me hush hush a few years prior about how father had passed. Wait, did I tell you back then my dad died? I thought I told you it was my mum. No, both my parents are still alive. When we were in uni I just read in a book telling people a parent has died isn't good way to get sympathy. Haha. Found out this girl I was getting close to had been lying about her ex being a deadbeat dad, and well, her ex, he wasn't just still in the picture, they lived together. I should have guessed after the 3rd or 4th time she made an excuse to not go to her place. Never ended something so quick. 1 year friendship with this girl. I invited her over to my new apartment. She came over and wanted to gossip about her coworkers. When she paused, I tried to add into the conversation, make a joke, give reassurance, add a comment, etc. But she would immediately raise her voice and start talking over me. I kept getting angrier every time it happened, until I was actually loathing her internally. She was so self-absorbed that she didn't notice I went from smiling and engaged to frowning while staring off into space. After 2+ hours of not being allowed to talk, I made up an excuse to kick her out of the apartment and then vowed to never see her again. One summer back in high school years, I had a crush on this girl and we'd hang out when we weren't working together. A friend of mine would keep insisting that I should just ask her out. So I mustered my courage and asked her out. Yeah, it was a glorious fail. I still remember when she smiled and told me the truth. That was when I found out that they had been secretly dating for a year and thought it would be a lark to just fuck with me. 100 to 0 in a few words and a vicious smile. I loved, still love, playing Pokemon and I had no female friends with the same interest. Found out about this group of guys that played it after school. Got really excited and made plans with them. I waited for hours and they never showed up. Next day I overhear my best childhood friend laughing about how annoying I was and that they had to hide from me to play in peace. That really hurt. When I was younger I found out one of my childhood friends was stealing from me and the friendship group. Every so often we would lose a phone or iPad, then said friend would have conveniently got the same model but beat it up a bit with his initials in tipbooks or something stupid. Being a good friend we didn't want to believe it, but we started putting distinct markings on our items. Lo and behold my phone goes missing and he turns up with the same one a few weeks later with the markings. We brought him up on it, but he just lost his temper and stormed off. 15 years later has in prison for armed robbery. Edit. Obligatory that blow up / rip inbox. In April I went on my yearly 3-day trip with my mom to Las Vegas. In that time, my ex moved out of my apartment. I found out because the landlord called, concerned I was moving. I knew nothing about it. I then called my ex to ask what on earth was going on, and she didn't pick up. She left furniture that I'm still trying to get her to take, and took shit of mine that she won't give back. Now I'm stuck in an apartment I can barely afford, struggling to survive. I can't move because my rent is cheaper than anything else in my city. It's been tough. Really made me lose all respect for her. My ex. I really liked him and cared for him a lot, and I thought he was the same about me too. But one day he said he was breaking up with me because he had heard that I had cheated on him. I hadn't. I said that I hadn't cheated on him, and he turns to me and says that I'm right. He was the one who cheated on me. I hated him after that. This was it for now. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it till the end, please subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.